If you're over 60, stop everything you're doing because the information I'm about to share may greatly affect your strength, energy, and self-esteem, and you probably don't even suspect it. The fruit you put on your plate every day, thinking it's healthy, may actually be a hidden enemy, quietly destroying your testosterone, lowering your erections, and gradually taking away your masculine power. You are convinced you're making the right choice by eating natural, light, and healthy foods. But the reality inside your body could be completely different. Your blood flow slows down, your arteries become inflamed, your testosterone levels drop, and the most alarming thing is that this happens right at the start of your day. My name is Dr. Eduardo Vasconcelos, and for over 4 decades, I have been helping men over 60 who strive for more vitality, desire, and potency. My years of observations have compelled me to urgently write this warning, because what I'm going to tell you today is not part of standard medical advice, and it's certainly not shown in advertisements. This is the hidden truth. The truth about 7 fruits you should avoid at breakfast if you value your sexual health, blood circulation, and masculine strength. Scientific studies have already proven that sharp spikes in glucose levels on an empty stomach, caused by eating fruits with a high glycemic index, negatively affect testosterone and nitric oxide, 2 substances that play a key role in male erections. This is supported by a study published in the prestigious Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism, which found that after consuming pure glucose, overall testosterone levels dropped by more than 25%, even in men without diabetes. And the saddest part is these fruits are probably already in your fridge. You eat them with good intentions, but they slowly undermine your male energy day after day. It doesn't matter if you've only recently started noticing changes or if you lost your old drive, strength, and confidence long ago. The answer may lie in what you eat every day. If I could give you one piece of advice that could change everything, it would be this. Watch this video until the end, because the 6th fruit on our list carries the greatest danger. It tempts you with its tropical freshness and supposed health benefits, but in reality acts like a silent enemy, undermining your manhood with quiet cruelty. Nothing else compares to its destructive impact. So take a deep breath, face the challenge ahead, and get ready to reclaim the strength and vitality that age had no right to take from you. Let's start with the first fruit, the banana, especially a ripe one. If you wake up, go to the kitchen, peel a ripe banana, and think you're starting the day in a healthy way, I must respectfully say, this habit may directly undermine your masculinity. I understand it's hard to believe. For decades, the banana has been seen as the perfect breakfast food. It's convenient, rich in potassium, sweet, and natural. But for men over 60, the reality of this fruit is different. This fruit can affect the most important aspects of your health: testosterone levels, blood circulation, and erection quality. This is especially true when the banana is overripe, covered in black spots, or too soft. As it ripens, its sugar content rises sharply. Eating it on an empty stomach without protein, fiber, or fats essentially injects glucose straight into your bloodstream. This sugar spike triggers an aggressive hormonal response. The rising insulin level poses a serious threat to men over 60, causing 3 key negative effects. Insulin suppresses testosterone production, blocks the release of nitric oxide, which helps dilate blood vessels and bring blood to the penis, and causes vascular inflammation, which harms erections. This is not just a theory, it's a real problem. A study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology showed that high circulating glucose levels significantly reduce the bioavailability of nitric oxide, directly impairing the dilation of penile blood vessels. This means that by eating a ripe banana on an empty stomach and causing a sharp sugar spike, you are effectively limiting your body's ability to produce and release the compound that supports erections. The worst part is that the effects are invisible at first. At some point, you notice you've lost your usual vitality, your drive fades. You blame it on age, but the real cause lies in that innocent breakfast that quietly ruined everything. I know this for sure. Over 40 years of practice, I've seen it in hundreds of patients. They would come in confused, saying, "I don't understand what's happening to me." And often the root of the problem was that very fruit they thought was healthy. If you truly love bananas, I'm not saying to never eat them again, but never eat a banana alone and on an empty stomach. If you want to eat one, do it after lunch with protein or together with nuts like cashews or almonds to lower its glycemic effect. Fruit number 2, orange juice on an empty stomach. For a long time, a glass of orange juice in the morning seemed like one of the healthiest habits in the world. It's refreshing, full of vitamin C and light. But for men over 60, drinking this beverage can have the opposite effect. Many don't realize that even natural orange juice is basically liquid sugar. Without the fruit's fiber, the sugar enters the blood within minutes, and its impact becomes sharp, especially on an empty stomach. This sudden glucose spike makes your pancreas release a powerful surge of insulin, and then a harmful trend begins. High insulin reduces testosterone production, decreases blood flow to the genitals by reducing nitric oxide, and triggers inflammation, damaging the delicate blood vessels in the intimate area. A study published in the scientific journal Diabetologia analyzed the effects of drinking fruit juices on an empty stomach and found that pure orange juice causes a sharp increase in oxidative stress, reduces nitric oxide activity, and impairs blood vessel dilation. So the juice you drink for energy may actually block the very circulation that keeps your erection strong and healthy. Worse, the negative effects of a sugar spike don't stop there. After the glucose spike comes an energy crash, morning sluggishness, mental fog, and eventually reduced sexual desire, which many mistake for aging. But it's not age, it's the result of a harmful habit passed down through generations. If you really value oranges, eat them whole, with pulp and fiber, and never on an empty stomach. The best option is to eat oranges after a protein-rich meal, which helps stabilize blood sugar levels. And if possible, avoid juice in the morning. It's one of the worst hormonal saboteurs for men your age. Fruit number 3, grapes. They're small, sweet, easy to eat, and seem like a perfect snack. Maybe you even keep them in your fridge to add to your breakfast yogurt. But what almost no one tells you is that these tiny fruits can silently drain your sexual power every day. Grapes look harmless on the outside, but they contain one of the highest concentrations of fructose per gram of any common fruit. And because they're small and juicy, you eat 1, 2, 5, 10, not realizing you're basically consuming several spoonfuls of pure sugar. Now imagine your stomach is empty. These little sugar bombs hit your bloodstream in minutes. Inside your body, sugar spikes, insulin shoots up, testosterone drops, nitric oxide decreases, and the vessels carrying blood to the penis quietly constrict, disrupting erections without warning. And science confirms it. A study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine showed that high fructose levels increase insulin resistance and lower endothelial function, meaning the ability of blood vessels to expand and send blood to the penis. In other words, you might not even realize you're sabotaging your potency, your sexual response, and even your desire. Most men only notice when symptoms become constant. Softer morning erections, less desire, slower response to stimulation. By the time they figure it out, months of damage from what seemed like a healthy habit have passed. If you still want to eat grapes, do it mindfully. Avoid them on an empty stomach, and don't eat them alone. Better after a meal rich in protein and healthy fats. But if you think grapes are risky, wait until you hear about dried fruits. Fruit number 4. Dried fruits, raisins, dates, apricots. They seem harmless, tiny, pretty, natural with a healthy image. They're added to granola, nut mixes, fitness bars, and even placed on the breakfast table by people who think they're eating well. But the truth is that these dried fruits can be some of the most dangerous and silent enemies of your masculinity after 60. They all have one thing in common: extremely high concentrations of fructose, the type of sugar that most disrupts metabolism right when you need hormonal balance the most. When water is removed from fruit, what's left is concentrated natural sugar with almost no fiber to slow its absorption. In other words, you put a handful in your mouth, and within minutes your blood sugar spikes. And as we've already said, that spike directly lowers testosterone, inflames blood vessels, and blocks nitric oxide production. A study published in the scientific journal Frontiers in Endocrinology in 2021 showed that frequent consumption of high glycemic dried fruits like dates and raisins accelerates glycation, which damages blood vessels, reduces their elasticity, and disrupts blood flow to the penis, harming erectile function. And all this happens silently. You keep thinking you're eating right, adding raisins to oatmeal, snacking on dates, chewing dried apricots between meals. And all of it slowly undermines your sexual response, your morning firmness, and your confidence. The worst part is that these dried fruits are marketed as fitness, energy, even functional foods. But for older men with high insulin sensitivity and vulnerable hormones, they could be sugar bombs disguised as health. If you do eat them, only in tiny amounts and only after a meal rich in protein and fats. Never on an empty stomach, never alone, and certainly not as a meal replacement. Fruit number 5, mango. Few men suspect that such a sweet, beautiful, and seemingly healthy fruit can harm sexual health. But if you're over 60, eating mango in the morning, especially on an empty stomach, can threaten your sexual function, and you don't even notice it. Mango strongly stimulates the liver, especially when eaten alone. And in older men, liver function is no longer as efficient as it once was. This overload disrupts hormone production and impairs blood circulation. A study published in the journal Vascular Health and Risk Management showed that strong food stimulation on an empty stomach can impair penile circulation, making it harder for vessels in the intimate area to dilate normally. The result: less blood, less firmness, weaker response. A man notices he no longer wakes up as firm, loses rhythm, loses reaction, and thinks it's just age. But often it's the result of small mistakes, like eating a whole mango at the most sensitive time of day. If you love this fruit, you don't have to give it up completely, but avoid it on an empty stomach. Only eat it after a balanced meal with proteins and healthy fats. Now, prepare yourself, because fruit number 6 is the most destructive of all. It seems light and good for digestion, but what it does to your erections is truly devastating. Fruit number 6, pineapple. Pineapple is often associated with lightness, digestion, and even vitality. But when a man over 60 eats this fruit in the morning, especially on an empty stomach, the effect can be the exact opposite of what he expects. Many don't know that pineapple combines high acidity with powerful digestive enzymes, which, when hitting an empty stomach, overstimulate the digestive and endocrine systems in the first hours of the day, and you pay the price. This early overstimulation raises cortisol, the stress hormone, and when cortisol goes up, testosterone goes down. It also causes peripheral vasoconstriction, narrowing of the blood vessels, which reduces blood flow exactly where it's most needed. A study published in the journal Psychoneuroendocrinology showed that this kind of overstimulation in the morning can raise cortisol levels by up to 35%, disrupting hormone production and sexual function even in healthy men. So that glass of juice or pineapple slices that seemed like a great start to the day may secretly disrupt your hormone balance and harm your erections. If you love this fruit, that's fine, but it should never be your first food of the day. Avoid pineapple on an empty stomach. Avoid it as the main dish for breakfast. And if you want to eat it, only do so after a full balanced meal. Now we've come to the last fruit on the list. A fruit many praise for its benefits to circulation, but which, if eaten at the wrong time, can ruin your results as fast as any of the others. Fruit number 7, watermelon. Watermelon has a reputation as a friend of male health, and partly that's true. It contains citrulline, which can help circulation. But almost no one mentions that when eaten for breakfast on an empty stomach, it can have the opposite effect. Watermelon is basically water and sugar. It has a high glycemic index, which means it digests fast and the sugar hits your blood within minutes. If this happens right after waking, the impact is direct. Glucose spikes, insulin kicks in, testosterone is suppressed, and the nitric oxide that citrulline should have activated is blocked by the unstable hormonal reaction. Even more concerning, a study published in the journal Hypertension Research showed that in older men, high glycemic meals in the morning reduce blood pressure variability and harm endothelial function, which is vital for erections. In other words, Watermelon at the wrong time can sabotage the very blood flow you hope to improve. And the worst part is you don't notice it. You think you're doing something healthy, but over time you realize your erections are weaker, your response is slower, your energy is gone. And it may have all started with that big plate of watermelon first thing in the morning. If you want the benefits of this fruit, only eat small portions and only after a balanced meal. Never alone, never as your first food of the day. If you've read this far, you understand the problem isn't the fruits themselves, but the habit of eating certain types at the worst possible time, on an empty stomach, first thing in the morning. To protect your circulation, hormones, and potency, choose fruits with a low glycemic effect, better metabolic balance, and the ability to combine well with proteins or healthy fats. The safest fruits to start the day. Avocado, rich in healthy fats, supports testosterone production and helps keep blood glucose stable. Apples with skin, rich in fiber, especially good with eggs or nuts. Berries like blueberries or blackberries, only in small amounts and never alone. Lemon juice and warm water. Not a meal, but a safe way to start the day without spiking blood sugar. Avoid any fruits on an empty stomach. Base your breakfast on proteins and healthy fats, and only add fruits as a complement, always in balance. In conclusion, if this information alarmed you, don't ignore it. The worst way to lose your male strength is not through a sudden event, but through small daily mistakes that silently drain your energy. Changing your morning diet could be the start of a real breakthrough, and thousands of men need to know this before it's too late. Share this video with the people you care about, fathers, brothers, friends, men you respect, and who deserve to protect their masculinity wisely. And if you truly take your health seriously, write in the comments, "I choose to protect my health every day." That way I'll know you're ready to act, and will no longer let a simple breakfast plate control your life as a man. Until the next video, a big hug.